was a horrible act of violence, and our dad, and my son were at the wrong place at the wrong time for a split second.
Federal authorities will file hate crime charges against a 73-year-old man accused of opening fire at 2 Jewish centers in the U.S. state of Kansas on Sunday. 3 people died, a teenager, his grandfather, and a woman who was visiting her grandmother at a retirement community. The suspect is a former Ku Klux Klan leader who shouted a Nazi slogan after police arrested him. Civil rights groups tracked the suspect for decades because of his anti-Semitic and racist rants, but he was able to obtain his firearm by having someone buy it for him. The case is likely to reignite a debate in this country, pitting those who advocate for gun rights against those who call for more severe restrictions. Sean Callebs begins a week-long series now with insight into a country that is seen by some as gun crazy.
In the right hands, a gun can elicit a sense of accomplishment, success, excitement.
Somebody is still shooting inside theater number 9. I got 7 down in theater 9. 7 down.
In the hands of those bent on killing, a few seconds of gun violence can trigger a lifetime of heartbreak and misery. The challenge in the United States is finding some common ground between gun rights advocates and those who want to make it more difficult to purchase a firearm. And if anyone expects gun owners to give an inch, think again.
Well, if you're a gun owner, you know that it's not about what you need, it's about what you want and what you can afford.
There's no such thing as an average gun owner in the United States. Sure, there are a lot of people who own rifles for hunting or sport, but there are many professionals, doctors, lawyers, businessmen, who like, and for a lack of a better term, collect guns. When asked, why do you need 10 to 15 guns? The answer isn't, I need. The answer is, it's my right.
The Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects the right to bear arms. Dr. Scott Lieberman is a cardiologist.
But I'm going to do 2 things.
And the owner of a gun store in Tyler, Texas, called Lock and Load.
So from the very beginning, firearms were an important aspect of the United States obtaining its freedom. So much so that the Founding Fathers put into the founding document.
It's easy to see how the right to bear arms helped American Revolutionary War soldiers defeat the British 230 years ago. But did Founding Fathers in the U.S. intend on that morphing into allowing the sale to civilians of semi-automatic assault rifles, extended magazines, or even a .50 caliber machine gun, all of which can be purchased online these days? Gun supporters say, absolutely.
They don't need to be sitting there in Washington and tell us how to live life here in Texas. In fact, the second provision in our Bill of Rights says that that's supposed to be out of bounds, that they're not supposed to be able to decide whether I need something or not.
John 911, what's the location of the emergency? City Hook School. I think there's somebody shooting in here.
In the aftermath of the killings in Newtown, Connecticut, where 20 first graders and 7 adults died, and the slaughter at a movie theater near Denver, Colorado, that claimed a dozen lives and wounded 70 others, there have been attempts to strengthen federal gun laws. But those attempts have been unsuccessful. A large part of the credit, or blame for that, depending on your viewpoint, can be traced to the uber-powerful lobbying organization, the National Rifle Association.
There is no greater freedom than the right to survive and protect our families with all the rifles, shotguns, and handguns we want.
They're an effective organization. I give them credit.
The NRA claims membership of 3 to 5 million and says 50 million or so Americans support its work. The NRA is well-funded, committed, and when they speak, U.S. lawmakers in Washington listen. Richard Feldman used to be a lobbyist for the NRA.
Any gun in the hands of any person who intends to misuse it is a bad thing, and any gun in the hands of a person who's using it to lawfully protect themselves and others is a good thing.
The vast majority of gun owners in the United States are law-abiding, and using that as a starting point, The NRA has fought to make changing gun laws very, very difficult.
What's the difference between these two?
We sent producer Matt Simon to a gun show in Maryland, and in about 2 minutes, he was able to legally buy a shotgun. All it took was one quick phone call to the FBI for a background check. Critics like Diane Randall want that law strengthened.
There has to be just common sense legislation to try to stop the slaughter of innocent children or people who are randomly assaulted. I mean, 30,000 people, over 30,000 people die every year by guns in this country.
That 30,000 includes murders and suicides.
It's also a very, very safe gun.
There are legions of well-spoken, thoughtful, thought-provoking people working in the gun industry, such as Beretta's Barry Corey.
I was talking earlier, I refer to this as a weapon.
Yes, sir.
You don't like that term?
Well, the industry in itself doesn't like the term weapon. A weapon is something used to inflict harm on a person. That's the perception that the word weapon uses.
If the two sides can't even agree on what to call a gun, it gives you the idea of the hurdles they must overcome. There have been multiple high-profile mass killings involving guns recently in the U.S. If you think that could have a chilling effect on gun sales, consider this. More guns were purchased in the United States last year than ever before.
Wow. Sean Callebs is back from Texas. He's here with us in Washington. It's pretty dramatic, the divide here between the pro-gun and the pro-gun control camp, I would say.
Very polarizing. That's the easiest way to phrase it. A lot of people who have either been victimized by gun violence or call it senseless violence, they just simply don't understand why somebody needs 10 or 15 guns, why you want a handgun, why you want a semi-automatic rifle. A lot of the people who embrace guns, they say that 99.9% of the time it's only used on targets or hunting, but you know, it's at 1% of the time. We had it again this past weekend. It's just horrific, and every other country looks at the United States. Why don't you do something to strengthen gun laws? When you talk about that, then the gun lobby says it's not the law. If people enforce those laws, better background checks, psychological checks, but it just ends in too much heartbreak.
Well, 30,000, that's a huge number, and that kind of jumps off the screen. It's a week-long series. Talk to us about some of the other things we're going to see this week.
4 more coming up. We're going to, tomorrow, focus on gun advocates, and the person who's really become the face of the pro-gun rally is Ted Nugent, former rocker, and you have to listen to that piece. I mean, this guy is known for just speaking his mind, and like him or not, he's out there. Day 3, there have been countless tragedies, and we sit down with someone who lost her son at a horrific shooting, Aurora Theaters, and she's well-spoken, heartbreaking story. You really understand where people come from when you hear people just pour their heart out, how that life has been changed forever by senseless gun tragedy. And day 4, buying guns. How easy is it? You know, you can buy a 50 caliber gun online. It's delivered to, you know, a gun shop near you, but you just go pick it up. And the critics argue you could take down a plane with a 50 cal. So you talk about terrorism, threats like that. Why should you be able to buy something this online? Because it's my right. That's what they say. Day 5, we just look at some of the more incredible things that people can do. We actually go to a place in Minnesota where you can drive a tank.
Jeez.
And we drove a massive tank, a kind that was used in the Gulf War, and got to crush a car with it, and then fired machine guns, automatic weapons, because this place says that's what Americans want to do. They want to go out there, they want to blow off steam, they want to say bigger is better, more exciting, and we'll take you down that road and see what you think.
You're covering all the angles. We're looking forward to it. Thanks so much, Sean.